US forces are expanding war zone against Iran. At least 87 have been killed, 61 missing after a US submarine struck and sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean off the Sri Lanka coast. The attack is being regarded as one of the biggest loss for the Iranian Navy. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirmed that US torpedo hit Iran's Iris Dana, claiming to be the first torpedo hit since World War II.
An American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II.
The Iranian frigate was sailing just outside Sri Lanka's territorial waters. Sri Lanka's Deputy Foreign Minister has confirmed that the 180-member crew frigate issued a distress call during the early hours of March 4th, prompting Sri Lankan Navy to launch rescue operations. So far, 32 sailors with critical injuries have been rescued. Sri Lanka's Defence Ministry said the search operations are underway for the remaining crew of the Iris Dana. According to Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister, Iris Dana sank 40 kilometers south of the Sri Lankan coast.
Being a maritime nation and as per the conventions in the search and rescue and the UNCLOS, we are obliged to respond any of distress out at sea, whether it is a ship, fishing vessel, or fishing craft, or the aircraft. We are the first responders. So Navy, along with the Coast Guard and the Air Force, we responded positively and swiftly, and we could able to rescue 32 survivors, and still we are doing the search and rescue operation in the particular area.
Iris Dana was one of 3 Iranian vessels that were invited to India's International Fleet Review and Exercise Milan in Visakhapatnam in mid-February. According to reports, the vessel was scheduled to halt at Kochi for refueling before beginning its onward passage westward towards the Persian Gulf. The second Iranian ship is Iranian military tanker Bushehr, which is anchored 10 nautical miles off the outer anchorage of Colombo port, while Dana was sunk by a torpedo with a 20 nautical mile range fired from a nuclear attack submarine in international waters. Bushehr is well within Sri Lankan territorial waters. Now, according to unverified reports from Sri Lankan media, the third Iranian ship is currently reported to be stranded in Panadura waters. The Iranian ship, which has reportedly nearly 300 children on board, has requested the Secretary of the Ministry of Defence to allow them to dock at a Sri Lankan port for 24 hours to obtain food and drinking water, which reportedly has been granted, but there has been no official communication from the Sri Lankan government. However, sources from the former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's office have indicated that they are not aware of the 300 children on board the vessel, rather the number of people. Following the incident, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that US has perpetrated an atrocity at sea 2,000 miles away from Iran's shores. He added that frigate Dana, a guest of India's Navy carrying almost 130 sailors, was struck in international waters without warning. He also said that US will bitterly regret the precedent it has set. A rescue operation by Sri Lanka continues. The injured soldiers are currently being treated at a local hospital. The bodies of the dead sailors have also been brought to the hospital morgue. Sri Lanka's Navy and the Air Force earlier said they were not releasing footage of the rescue since it involves military of another state. For more on this, we are being joined by Assistant Editor of Foreign Affairs Siddhant Sibal in New Delhi and our correspondent Dasuni Athoda in Colombo. Dasuni, I want to come to you first. What is the latest position of the Sri Lankan government with respect to the reported request that has been made by the Iranian Navy for docking on a Sri Lankan port? Dasuni.
Well, just moments ago in Sri Lanka's opposition whip and Minister Nalendra Ratisa did confirm that there is, in fact, a third vessel, but it is not within the Sri Lankan boundary waters, but rather in the exclusive economic zone, which concerns Sri Lanka, and that the government is currently looking at how best to assist all those aboard while also maintaining a regional peace. So we did receive confirmation regarding the fact that there is another vessel that concerns Sri Lankan maritime boundaries, but we are yet to receive any more particular details as to who is in this vessel, how many people are in it, and for what reason is it trying to enter into Sri Lankan waters.
All right, Dasuni, stay with us. I'm now going to Siddhant. Siddhant, what is India's position on this ever-evolving maritime situation that has emerged, and is there potential for India to get diplomatically involved in this matter? Siddhant.
Well, India hasn't reacted so far. There hasn't been any public remark by the Indian side. But there are two sides of the story. The first side is that, as the Iranian foreign minister has said, that the vessel, the warship, was invited by India and it took part in the exercises in the month of February. So it was going back to the home country. The Iranian ambassador told us a short while ago that the vessel was not armed. And the incident happened away from the Indian maritime boundaries, also away from the Sri Lankan maritime boundaries in the international water. So this incident happened in the international water. So essentially, India does not have any stakeholdership. But the other side of the story is that this is India's backyard. This is a major incident in which almost 100 Iranian sailors have died and happened very near to the Indian and the Sri Lankan coast. Of course, not in the boundaries, but of course in the international water. So there are, of course, questions. This is something that is worrisome development. This is seen as expansion of the war which has happened from West Asia to the Indian Ocean. So there are alarm bells in the region over this development. It's a wait and watch situation right now, and perhaps in next few days or next few hours we'll get to know essentially what is the Indian position on this development.
Right, Siddhant, stay with us. Dasuni, I'll come back to you. Dasuni, in terms of any more assistance that the Sri Lankan side can provide to Iran, has there been any more communication between Iran and Sri Lanka in terms of the maritime assistance asked from Sri Lanka? Dasuni?
Oh, yes, the latest that we've received is in relation to the warship that was attacked yesterday. Iranian officials have now officially communicated with the Sri Lankan government that they do intend to repatriate all the 87 bodies that were rescued by the Sri Lankan military here in Sri Lanka. But now there is a more pressing matter in Sri Lanka at the moment, is that due to the ongoing air closure situation in the Gulf, there is a pressing issue where these bodies cannot be safely repatriated as soon as possible. So Sri Lanka is currently facing an issue of not having huge cold storage facilities to maintain these bodies of the slain Iranians. So that is a problem that the Sri Lankan government is facing right now. They are looking at procuring cold storage facilities in order to swiftly engage in this process.
Dasuni, in terms of the 87 people that have been confirmed killed after the US strike on Iris Dana, do we have any medical update on the rest of the crew that is currently being treated in hospital?
Well, the situation largely remains the same compared to what the information we received yesterday. A total of 32 individuals were rescued, and hospital officials did confirm of them one individual is receiving serious medical care given that his injuries are serious, and the rest of them are still being attended to by the hospital staff. So that is the latest that we have.
Well, thank you, Dasuni, for all those updates. This is, of course, an ever-evolving situation. Now, the war has seemingly expanded to also South Asia. Dasuni, thank you very much for those updates. We'll, of course, continue covering this story in great depth.